It happens hundreds of times a year. Humans and bears get too close. The result can be an assault, a break and enter, even a death. But who is guilty in these incidents? Are bears the problem? Or are they being provoked by humans?
The hanging gardens.
To find out, these bear experts will investigate 5 cases.
Bear trap.
They're looking for clues,
Pretty fresh.
using science and bear behavior to understand why these encounters happened, what drove a human or bear to attack, and what humans should do to prevent dangerous bear encounters. By solving these mysteries, they hope to determine whether these events were actually bear crimes. Many of Canada's bear attacks occur in British Columbia. This is grizzly bear country. And in 2000, the McLeod Lake area of central British Columbia was the scene of a gruesome grizzly bear attack. The victim's name is Max Tiley. He is confined to a wheelchair from injuries sustained during the attack. Max doesn't remember how the grizzly did this to him, but his family is eager to learn more about what happened so others can avoid the same danger. So we asked 2 experts to return to the scene of the attack to reconstruct the events second by second. They hope to solve the mystery. Was this a predatory bear or one acting defensively? And was human error to blame? Jim Corbett is a senior conservation officer in southern British Columbia.
Well, usually when you rubber bullet
If there are bear police,
they take off for a while, or
he's the chief.
that was great.
He oversees 7 officers who investigate bear attacks.
Gone somewhere else.
It's Jim's job to decide when a bear needs to be killed if it becomes a danger to the public. He has investigated dozens of bear attacks.
Oh, looks like we got a bear track here.
Jim is joined by Lana Cerniello. She's a bear biologist. She specializes in understanding bear behavior, even why they occasionally kill. So Jim and Lana head to the scene of the grizzly bear attack.
The age of this clear cut is really good for bears. It offers a lot of security and cover.
Yeah, we're getting close to the area now.
Hey, here's a little black bear track, and it looks pretty fresh. Oh, there's a moose track, too.
Well, if we got that fresh of tracks, we better make a little bit of noise when we go on ahead.
For sure.
Scare the bears away. Okay. Hey, bear!
Hey, bear, coming through.
This is what Lana and Jim want to avoid. Grizzly bears can reach 600 kilograms and stand 3 meters tall. They survive on vegetation like berries, roots, and some meat. In September of 2000, Max Tiley and his wife were driving down this old side road. Max is hoping to hunt some moose, but they soon see grizzly bear tracks besides some moose tracks.
Me, I don't want to get out because I'm scared. So I tell him I should stay in the truck, I said.
I'm just going to have a look up here.
Unwisely, Max dismisses his wife's concerns. He decides to walk up the road, following the moose tracks, naively walking in the footsteps of the grizzly. But where was the grizzly? Lana and Jim search for clues to how it could have been concealed, unseen by the victim.
This looks like the spot the bear might have been just before the attack.
Could be a bear bedding area. So the bear was probably up there by the willows. And depending on the wind direction, he might not have had the opportunity to smell the victim. And if he wasn't making any noise, he doesn't have the opportunity to hear him until he gets quite close. So it's likely that he just surprised that bear.
Grizzly bears rely on their noses more than any other sense. They can smell a dead animal from a kilometer away, so they're used to knowing what's around long before they can see it. The next riddle is finding out where the victim was standing just before the attack.
I believe the victim was looking over the lake, perhaps looking for moose or moose sign, had his back to the direction that the bear came from.
Just 50 meters from his wife, Max Tiley stops to urinate. He has no idea that a bear is so close.
I'm not sure if the victim urinating had anything to do with the motivation for this attack. Bear home ranges tend to overlap each other. They're not territorial, but they do defend a personal space around themselves. And so if he's urinating, he's distracted, it gets within its personal space, and that could be the motivation there.
Now Tiley's enemy is physics. A man weighing 100 kilograms cannot stop a 200-kilogram bear that can charge at 45 kilometers an hour. Mr. Tiley doesn't remember much of the attack, but his body does. His hands show scars from jaws puncturing his skin. The injury suggests Mr. Tiley may have held up his arm to protect his face from the bear's jaws. They easily tore into his hands. Mr. Tiley's face also provides clues. His face contains scars from his forehead being pulled down over his eyes. Designed for digging roots and ripping apart logs, the bear's 10-centimeter claws also attacked his face.
So the victim was taken down here. The bear bit him several times in the head. The investigators said they found blood all through this site. His wife up at the truck heard the yelling and screaming. She grabbed the gun out of the truck and some bullets and tried to come and help him.
But as Mrs. Tiley runs to rescue her husband, she gets the shock of her life.
Oh my God, there's a grizzly bear just ran towards me. I never in my whole life that I get so scared. And when I get back to the truck, there was no bear. And then I started hollering for him. I said, "Honey, are you all right? Honey," I kept saying, but nothing, just silent.
But where's the bear? Has it left for good, or will it return to her husband?
In this circumstance, the best thing you can do is if the road is passable, you get into your vehicle and you just drive your vehicle right at that bear. You honk your horn, you do everything you can to try to get that bear off the victim.
But Mrs. Tiley decides she can't reach her husband in the truck. The lake has cut a gully in the road. Mrs. Tiley drives into town to get some of her family and to alert police. It takes 2 hours to return. It's a risky decision. Her husband may bleed to death or be attacked again.
This bear felt threatened and was acting in a defensive manner. This was not a bad bear. It went and it immobilized that threat. And once that threat was immobilized, that was the victim, then this bear left and did not come back. And this is shown by the fact that the victim was left there for 2 hours and the bear didn't come back and did not predate on him at any point.
Before dark, we got back over there. Oh my God, he was still alive yet. He tried to talk, but he can't because his face was just bloody, and this is his skull here. It was over his eye. And those boys tell me, "Grandma, don't look at him."
Mr. Tiley survives his attack but is never the same again. Tragically, this terrible attack could have been avoided.
So this victim had seen grizzly bear sign on the road as well as moose sign, but because he was moose hunting, he wasn't thinking at all about the grizzly bear. He wasn't making noise when he went into the area. He wasn't worried about the wind. And this is probably what got him in trouble.
As humans, we're encroaching more and more into their habitat, and it's up to us to learn some basic bear behavior to avoid encounters with bears, and particularly negative encounters with bears.
You're right, because in this case, a good bear got involved in a bad encounter.
Grizzly bears can run 50 kilometers an hour, so there's no way to outrun them. But what happens when a black bear is the attacker? That's the question that takes Jim and Lana to their next case in northern British Columbia. In August of 1997, this holiday spot was the location of the most horrific bear attack in recent memory. A black bear attacked 4 tourists, killing 2 in just a few minutes.
To me, there wasn't a decision to be made but to go try to help the person that was screaming like that.
Lana and Jim have come to the scene of the attack. Before the incident here, Lana had studied bears in this park and the risk of a bear attack. The Liard Hot Springs is a provincial park near the northern border of British Columbia. There are 2 heated pools fed by hot springs. The warm water allows this northern park to become an oasis of plants, attracting wildlife, including hungry bears.
How many people would have been here the month of the attack?
Well, the attack happened in mid-August, which also is a time that I identified as the peak visitor use plus peak bear use, so both of them overlap.
And this is where it happened?
Okay, let's get started.
Much of their information comes from the provincial coroner's report. It contains the basic facts of the case, but leaves many questions unanswered. The first riddle is why there was a bear so close to a busy boardwalk in August. Lana suspects there must have been food nearby.
I'm just gonna go check out the vegetation.
Okay, I'm gonna get a couple of photos.
Lana is searching for berry bushes, a staple of the black bear diet. Male black bears can weigh up to 250 kilograms, standing over 2 meters high. Bears can eat up to 20,000 calories a day as they get ready for winter hibernation. That's as much as 60 hamburgers for a human being. But Jim and Lana know that the black bear who attacked here was different. The bear had a problem. Winter was coming. To survive, the bear needed to put on weight for winter hibernation. And so far, it was 25 kilograms underweight. So on that August day, a hungry, desperate black bear found a berry bush of its own. But it wouldn't be alone for long. Over at the Alpha Pool, the McConnell family of Texas was enjoying a swim. After an hour, Patty McConnell invited her son to take a walk on the boardwalk, leaving her daughter behind. The mother and son arrived at the Hanging Gardens and stopped to look.
If I remember the report correctly, the mother and son were standing at the top of the Hanging Gardens, and then on their way back down, they saw the bear in this area here.
Unknown to the family, their arrival was noted by the bear, who probably smelled them first.
So, did the bear come up on the boardwalk, or did it come after them?
Yeah, made a woof noise down here, came up on the boardwalk.
When faced by a black bear, the best policy is to stay calm and never run. Unfortunately, the family did neither.
He yelled run to his mother, and they both started to run down that way.
That's never a good thing to do. That can really evoke that predatory response in an animal.
Most bears flee when they encounter a human, but sometimes bears attack in self-defense. The bear may charge at you and become agitated. Much rarer are predatory attacks when the bear treats humans as prey. Never run. And in a predatory attack, you should fight back.
So the bear rushed her from behind, knocked her down to the ground, and then it looked for a way to grab where it could kill her. And in my experience, that's what predators do. They catch their prey and get it so that it can't get away, and then they try and grab it somewhere where they can kill.
With his mother being attacked, the boy chose to stay and fight the bear. But can a boy defeat a black bear? A woman is being mauled by a black bear. Now her son decides to stay and fight.
He looked around the boardwalk and he found a stick somewhere out there. And he picked it up and he started to hit the bear with it.
Well, that's exactly the right response. You know, he had two choices. He could have gone back, or he could stay and fight. And what a brave little boy to stay and fight. So he was hitting the bear, and then he finally hit it in the snout, and it backed off?
And once he hit it in the snout, it backed off momentarily. Unfortunately, then it redirected its efforts at the boy.
220 pounds on a 13-year-old boy is a lot of weight. It's really difficult to fight back in that position.
Yeah, when the boy woke up and the bear was chewing on the back of his neck, he could hear it.
Bears will eat almost anything. Their back teeth are flat and ideal for grinding plants. But their front four canines, each 5 centimeters long, are designed for sinking into flesh and tearing it apart. Once they start an attack, it's hard to stop them.
So as I understand it then, the mother's on the ground over here and she's completely incapacitated. And the boy is on the ground over here. He's got the bear on top of him, so he's lost his ability to fight back, but he's screaming.
Yeah, and the yelling and screaming were heard down at the Alpha Pool where victim number 3 decided to run up and help.
Ray Kitchen was a local truck driver. He left his daughter back at the pool when he heard the screams.
So the third victim came up the stairs here. He looked around, he found a stick. He started beating on the railings, yelling, rushing at the bear, trying to scare it away. He then speared the bear with the stick, where the bear let go of the boy and backed up. Then the bear came after victim 3 and he backed up. He was trying to get down the boardwalk. The bear took him down on the boardwalk. And then it dragged him off down onto the ground.
And the attack is not over. California residents Ingrid Bailey and Brad Westervelt are the next to be drawn into the attack. They are tourists on their way to Alaska.
Right when we got to the lower pool, we ran into a woman who was crying that they needed a gun and that help was needed. So at that point, Ingrid took off at a run and I followed after her.
Brad and Ingrid are joined by a third rescuer. Ingrid hopes to use her medical training to help the victims.
The third victim was no longer able to really actively defend himself against the bear. He was more sort of covering up at that point.
He was trying to get up, and every time he would stand, the bear would knock him back down. Ingrid was shouting and clapping her hands, and we threw what little pieces of rotted wood we could find at it. Something was needed, either a gun or an axe, rocks, even big rocks would have helped, but there was nothing available.
Okay.
Brad agrees to leave the scene to find a weapon.
I gave up on trying to help the third victim when the bear picked the man up by the neck and shook his head a bit, and the man fell to the ground, missing a significant part of his neck. The bear then continued to eat the third victim.
Ingrid tries to help the mother. Suddenly, the bear leaves in search of another victim.
I glanced up just in time to see the bear just, inches away from the woman's feet, and I scooped her up and pulled her a little bit farther up onto the boardwalk as the bear walked by. He then kind of took off into the woods and later attacked a fourth person.
I'm not sure why the bear left victim number 3. It could have been because there were so many people coming now, and I imagine the scene would have been complete chaos, or if it went to try to retrieve the earlier victims and sort of bring them all together.
The bear's rampage continued. A 4th victim was bitten on the thigh trying to run away. Finally, a tourist arrived with a rifle and killed the bear. The attack was over. Victim number 1, Patty McConnell, would die that afternoon. Her son would survive her, and victim 3, Ray Kitchen, would die on the scene. The 4th victim, Ari Vandervelden of Calgary, would survive the attack as well.
I think this was clearly a predatory attack on these people. I've just never seen a bear act like this where it just couldn't be chased off.
And there are no hard and fast rules in bear encounters, but in most cases that bear would have backed off and gone away. But all bears are not killers, just like all humans are not killers.
And the people did mostly the right things. They fought, they hit the bear, they threw things at the bear, they yelled at the bear, they did all the right things. It's just in this case it didn't work.
This type of attack is almost unheard of, and ironically, black bears are Canada's smallest. The largest are polar bears. They can weigh over 700 kilograms and dwarf any human. And now Jim is traveling north for a case where polar bears are the suspects. For his next case, Jim is traveling north to polar bear territory. Jim is heading for Churchill, Manitoba. Each year, hundreds of hungry polar bears migrate right past the town. They are waiting for the ice to freeze so they can spend the winter on a frozen Hudson's Bay hunting seal. So they walk past Churchill hungry, not having eaten for months. Jim arrives alone. Polar bears are quite different from other bears, so Lana has suggested he work with a different bear expert here. But Jim's first stop is to meet with the local conservation officer.
Jim Corbett, I presume?
Yeah, Richard.
Richard Romaniuk. Rick Hildebrand said you'd be coming to Churchill, so we're just getting ready for our Halloween patrol, so we might as well hop in the truck and get right at her.
Here in polar bear country, this celebration is a bit different than in the south. The problem is that the polar bears sometimes wander into town, especially at night. And to keep them out is everybody's business, from the smallest child to the police and conservation officers.
I guess it wouldn't be a good thing to be dressing up as a polar bear.
No,
Churchill.
we discourage the kids from wearing anything white like a ghost or a polar bear.
Normally, kids aren't allowed on the streets after the evening curfew. But on this snowy Halloween night, the authorities make an exception. So the police and conservation officers keep searchlights on the lookout for any polar bears who might do some trick-or-treating of their own. As Churchill grew, polar bears became more tempted to enter town. Dealing with these giant carnivores has been a serious issue since the 1960s. Polar bears are the world's largest land predators. Standing over 3 meters tall, they are built to kill. For Jim's investigation, he needs the help of bear expert Chris Morgan. Here in 1977, a 14-year-old boy was walking to school after lunch alone during polar bear season.
Well, the boy was walking down the road here. He's looking in the pond over there. And then when he glanced off to his right, he saw a polar bear just over the hill here.
If he was walking down here and the wind was in his face, the bear wouldn't have caught his scent. So it could have been that the bear wasn't aware of his presence until he got right to this point.
Polar bears use their noses like we use our eyes. They can smell meat from 3 kilometers away and beneath a meter of ice. They rely on huge nasal cavities attuned to the smell of prey.
And often what they'll do, of course, just like grizzly bears and black bears, is try and get around downwind from what they're trying to identify. So that could well have been what he was exhibiting there.
I just happened to be walking, and I just out of the corner of my eye, or the right side of my eye, I looked, and I looked again and stopped. And I froze. I've never experienced a feeling like this in my life. I had this flush feeling go right through my body. I believe people call it cold sweat. The whole posture of the bear, the standing in front, lifting its nose up, sniffing the air, bending his head down, bobbing up and down, and making that huffing noise. Well, I just didn't know what the heck to do.
So the boy froze right here in the road. He didn't know whether to go home or go to school. Finally took off running as hard as he could go towards the school.
And I guess at this point the bear's senses are heightened, it's wondering what to do, and seeing a boy run in front of him at speed, the bear may have just triggered into a chase response.
All I can think of is feet don't fail me now, and I ran as fast as I possibly could.
So as the boy was running down the road, he heard a couple of cracker shells go off behind him. Apparently some RCMP had driven up, they'd seen what was going on, and they fired a couple of cracker shells towards the bear.
Unclear really as to whether the bear had entered this chase response mode and was chasing the kid down the street, or if the alien sound of these cracker shells, which would have made a bear very stressed at that point to hear them, if that had actually sent the bear running instead.
While I was running up the hill here, I was giving her as fast as I could, and right beside me, I kid you not, this bear ran right by me.
Well, I see some similarities between this bear, what it did, and what a black or grizzly might do. If they're surprised, they can act defensively, or it can turn into a predatory attack.
But of course, then with polar bears, they differ from grizzly bears and black bears a little bit because they're so highly carnivorous in nature. You know, 90% of their diet is meat, unlike grizzly bears and black bears. But of course, it's good for people around here to understand that it's never good to surprise a bear, never good to suddenly encounter a bear.
I can't agree more. And at this time of year in the fall, when there's so many bears around, this boy shouldn't have been walking along the road all by himself in a deserted area like this, where he might encounter a bear. Should have been riding in a vehicle, or at least walking in a big group.
Today, school children are safe from polar bears because everyone is on the lookout. Doors are kept unlocked in case someone needs to run inside to avoid a bear. Few people carry guns, but everyone calls police whenever they see a bear. And this morning, the phones have been busy.
Did you see anything when you were up there, Jack?
We saw tracking nothing. We went and tried looking at them trees up all the way to Cape Mary all over. We never seen nothing.
Most polar bears can be scared out of town with a few shots of a firecracker gun. But this bear has returned 5 times today. So it's time for more drastic measures. The bear is tranquilized with a dart rifle. The goal here is to keep bears and people safe and alive. Jim is invited to help identify the polar bear.
X17276 is the tattoo on both sides. They're in good condition. Part of the process for identifying the bear is if it's never been captured before, you give it 2 ear tags, okay? And the ear tags, we can switch the tattoo number, and you give it a corresponding tattoo on both sides of the mouth. That's what the green is. It's a biodegradable ink.
Once a bear is subdued, it still needs to be taken out of town. So offenders are either flown out 20 kilometers or taken here to a sort of polar bear jail. They wait here before being released when the ice freezes, and they'll happily start hunting seals.
It's very clear from a town like Churchill that the people here really understand bears, and so it speaks volumes about the need for education and the need for people just to understand a little bit about safety issues in bear country and the behavior of bears.
Yeah, my impression of polar bears before I came to Churchill was that they were an extremely dangerous predator that would always view a person as prey. And I think I've learned that while they're a predator, they don't always view us as prey, and that's evident by the very few attacks that we have in an area like this that has so many polar bears and so many people trying to view them.
And for me, it's pretty inspirational to see these people coexisting so well with polar bears in Churchill.
For their last case, Jim and Lana travel to a town that hasn't solved its bear problem, where bears and humans are putting each other in danger every day. For the next case, Jim heads to the town of Whistler, British Columbia. Nestled in the mountains, this popular ski resort is growing quickly, right into bear territory. Here, the problem is breaking and entering. Bears have found that it is easier to steal human food and garbage than to find food in the bush. In 2001, there was a rash of home invasions by bears, 18 incidents in 1 month. It's a problem that has brought Jim and Lana to investigate. Is this a bear problem?
Hey Jim, how you doing?
Or a human one?
So I've taken a look around. Why don't you jump out and I'll show you what I think I found.
One of the houses invaded in 2001 was occupied by the Grills family.
I was playing Lego upstairs and I made this thing, so I walked downstairs to show my dad.
I was working in the office, talking on the telephone, and I'd heard quite a bit of noise in the house, and it was only Ryan was home. So at one point I stopped the conversation, went and asked him what he's doing, and he said he's upstairs playing with Lego.
So the bear came through the screen door, broke in through there, went into the kitchen, started rummaging around in the cupboards and any food that was left on the counters.
And then I thought my mom was home, so I went into the kitchen.
So we came around the corner to have a look, and that's where he came eye to eye with the bear, and the blood-curdling scream. And
so I screamed as loud as I could and ran into the office and went under the desk.
So at the time of the encounter, were they cooking at all? Had they made any bacon or egg or anything smelly for breakfast that would have been vented out of the house?
No, they had dry cereal and there was some muffins sitting on the counter and some coffees and things like that, but nothing that would have smelled a lot.
Ryan's scream had not only scared me, but scared the bear. I started screaming, clapped my hands really loud, scared the bear further onto the patio, and then kept screaming and yelling and sent him off into the woods off the property.
Well, that kind of indicates to me that this bear had had an encounter before this one. It had known kitchens, associated houses with food, human food, and how to get it. And at this point was just sort of looking around and came upon a screen door, which was easy to break in.
Soon homes in 2 neighborhoods were reporting bear break-ins. But exactly what kinds of human food do black bears like so much? And how do they get in? No one filmed any of the bear break-ins in 2001, so we decided to find out what food bears like. We hired a trained bear and filmed what happened when it was turned loose in a well-stocked kitchen. Jim and Lana want to see what happens too, so they will be watching on a monitor.
I told you should never leave your window open in bear country.
Pretty gentle, and never broke the cup.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. Well, the only wild bear I've ever seen do this. Ripped apart the place.
Bears are smart. They want to eat as many calories as they can without much effort.
Oh, there's Cheerios.
This bag of candy is why bears love human food. It takes just a few minutes to eat 2,000 calories, not counting the wrappers. Bears have no problems with handles, and they're strong enough to bend a car door open.
Pretty gentle the way you opened that too, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen them open things, so even ones lids on garbage cans would be pretty.
Yeah.
They're pretty agile.
experience, the bear's gone for a lot of sugar items. Right there, he's drinking a sugary juice. We use molasses quite often in our traps.
He's like the Martha Stewart of bears, hey? He cleans up after himself.
Bears are shrewd. Once they discover human food is filling and easy, they'll keep coming back for more. However, that night, Jim receives an emergency call. Local authorities are alerted to another bear that is breaking into backyards. As a senior conservation officer in the area, Jim is asked to help find the bear, and Lana comes along.
We walked right up to our car. Oh. Kind of just stepped in.
Is there garbage around here at all? Or?
Across the street, there's
a black bear has been spotted in a parking lot near some condos and a restaurant.
Want to let a couple of bangers go on the other side and then see if he runs across here.
We've got a pyrotechnic gun. I'm just going to load it up in case we want to scare the bear with it. It shoots two different types of flare type things, a cracker and a screamer.
Jim and the officers are armed. Their goal is not to kill the bear, but to teach it to fear and avoid humans.
Still in near my side here. It's closer to the gray vehicle. Copy.
10-4, can you see him from where you are?
No, he's deep in the bush. If somebody comes on this side and we load the bear banger from this side, we can scare him on it.
Bears usually find these firecracker guns terrifying. But so far, there's no sign of the bear. An hour later, another call brings Jim and Lana to the back of a hotel. This time, it is a different bear. The officers load their guns with rubber bullets, another way to convince bears that humans and their food should be avoided.
I don't know how we're going to get him out of there. Where is he?
We'll use this as a backdrop there.
To blue recycle.
Use that as a backdrop?
Trash backdrop.
So yeah, we want him to go out that way.
Back off this. Just are you ready?
As the terrified bear flees, it leaves a trail of urine. The officers move in to inspect what brought the bear here. To a bear, this is a free buffet.
None of this should even be in here. This is for papers. This stuff should all be locked up.
Who belongs to this?
This is one of the hotels here. Some of them share this area, but
I don't think much of it, and I think that this just causes problems. It just makes problem bears. It's upsetting, I would say, to say the least. It's very upsetting. It doesn't take a lot to get a bear-proof garbage can and to make sure that garbage can is always closed. And if you're going to have an establishment in an area with bears, then I think it's your responsibility to do that.
But how do you stop a bear with a taste for human food? When we come back, the surprising conclusion to the B&E bear case. Jim is upset by what he sees in Whistler. Bears are finding lots of human food here. Like bait, this food is inviting bears to get too close to human beings. and those encounters can be deadly to both humans and bears. It is a danger that Stephen Hill personally encountered during the wave of break-ins in 2001. Hill was a journalist who had written a series of articles about bear safety for a local newspaper.
So I'd just written a story, a front page story called Beware of B&E Bears. And I ended it with telling people what they should do to avoid having bears come into their house, keep their windows secure and their garbage and all that sort of stuff. And also what to do if you happen to encounter a bear.
So how did the bear get into the house in the first place?
Well, the window was open about half an inch. Even though this fellow had just written an article in the paper that people shouldn't do that, he hadn't taken his own advice.
And I started hearing dishes rattling and, you know, all like things dropping on the floor. So I got out of bed carefully and peered around a corner. There was a bear. There was sugar and coffee and like everything was pulled out of the fridge and the cupboards, and it was a disaster. So I banged on the window. The bear got frightened by this right away. But I had miscalculated because the windows were so close together that the bear ended up being 6 feet away from me when it left the house. So I did the same thing, lifted up my arms and said, "Go away, you know, get out of here." And the bear jumped forward and went, "Ugh." It scared me, and I ran.
In this encounter, I think what happened is that the man and the bear ended up really close to each other. He said about 6 feet apart, and so the bear's reaction was, he was in his personal space. Get out of my personal space. Of course, then the man reacted by, he just turned around and ran. And that's not the reaction you want to have. You want to maybe make yourself as big as possible, avoid direct eye contact, back off, making noise, but just trying not to run, because you really want to try not to evoke a predatory response.
I'd been writing stories saying, "Don't run, the bear will think you're prey." And I ran. And then when I realized I shouldn't be running, I turned around to face the bear again, and it was already wandering off.
So I think this bear had done this before. We're in the same area as a lot of those other break-ins occurred, close to where the other house was broken into. And the bear just seemed to know what it was doing. The window was only open a half of an inch, and I managed to get it open, slit the screen, and climb in.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this behavior first happened, whether someone fed it from a house or whether it first, broke in, but bears are extremely smart, and once this type of thing happens, it's really, really difficult to deter.
The last I saw of it, however, 3 days later, on a Saturday, I was in my apartment, in my suite, doing a news story, typing a news story on my computer, and I heard a couple of sharp, like the backfiring of a car, but I know the sound of a shotgun. And I found out later that just down from my place, the bear had entered another house, and police or conservation service came and shot it.
Jim remembers the bear's death well. He was the conservation officer who approved the shooting. Carelessness by humans cost this bear its life, joining 1,000 others killed each year.
But I think what we really need to focus on in this instance is that it seems really funny. Though you got this bear that's doing all these break-in entries and breaking into all these homes, and it's in all the press coverages, but what this resulted in was the death of this animal. And I don't, find that funny at all. People need to remember that bears are wild animals, and in Whistler, you're living here in bear country, and they need to be respected.
The people in Whistler are very tolerant right now. There's a lot of bears that are coming right into the village, and they're still getting into things. And if there is ever an attack in Whistler or even near Whistler, those people's attitudes may change, and it may result in the death of a lot of bears, not just one or two.
Whistler is not alone. In our love affair with the wild, we humans are moving our homes and our garbage into bear territory, into the home of animals who are stronger and faster than us. To live with them, we need to give them space and respect.